Hello everyone. In this lecture, we will try to summarize the whole course, Strategies for Sustainable Design. So let's begin. So the first and foremost, if you see around the subject of sustainability, the major lacking actually area is the awareness. How to inform like a general public, how to inform everyone, so that they can be have responsibly, because there is a huge gap of actually information and knowledge regarding the subject of sustainability and how it can be implemented. And without actually people's participation, well, it is very difficult to actually achieve the targets of like a UN SDGs, and the environmental concerns and the social concerns and the economical concerns around the sustainability. So the first and foremost is to spread the awareness. So if you see like this slide, so starting from like a children's like a schooling system, from there itself, if we start spreading this awareness, because once they will grow up, they will be having they will be carrying actually this knowledge with them, and they will actually most likely they will perform actually as per the protocols, as per the actually expectations, which will eventually will help us rebuild our like the fragile ecosystem. So the first and foremost is, if you see like this, it's actually a drawing by a student who has actually drawn, if you see, like how the journey of like these discarded materials, the packaging, the products, the other things, start from the household, until the last, wherever they reach, they go to a like a landfill, they go to a lake, a river, eventually reaching to the like a ocean floors, and during this time, causing like a different kind of like issues, problems, and in the even that like in the oceans, causing disturbance to the marine life. So how this actually information, at least this kid is now aware of this situation, so at least for like before discarding any like this packaging materials and things, at least he or she will think it again, like how to responsibly dispose actually that particular item. So this awareness actually is a very important actually factor in spreading this word. Further, if you see like giving students like such projects or for such information and like a knowledge based projects and assignment, where they can understand the the concepts of like a sustainability, in a like a simpler way. If you see like this project right here on this slide, so the idea around this project is to use the discarded materials to construct this house. So if you see like they have used this recycled actually pieces of like a wood, recycled like a steel, metal sheets, even like using like these windmills, even like involving like, if you see like a veranda for like a shading over here, and water tanks you see over here, solar panels on the roof, see here and here, right? And then composting toilets are actually, is given, this idea of like this vegetable garden, kitchen garden is actually given, fruit trees, composting like a bins, poultry and a wind turbine. So all of this, they are not just a piece of like a model, or like any like a worthless exercise, but this is going to create actually an impression, on that child's like a brain for like a longer period of time. So at least he or she will get exposed to this like the concepts, like how a house should be built, in what ways it can be built, in what ways it can be designed, how to use the materials, how to go for like such concepts. So if we are actually studying in our like these classes about these concepts, but for actually if we introduce these concepts to like a children's at early age, they will not actually take much longer to understand, and and like find it like useful in their lives. Further, in the next like a slide, if you see over here, again like an example for like is given for like a harvesting like a energy from the like a solar, and wind panels, and other things like you see over here, like a water turbine over here. So how they can actually utilize this actually wealth of knowledge, is very actually an interesting and a curiosity based actually exercise. So we should actually introduce as like educators, as like a designers, to like a early education system, how they can actually make use of such stuff. Even like exposure to the like harvesting solar energy in different way. For example, if you see over here, this cooking actually system is given, which utilizes solar actually, light to prepare the dishes. Further, if you say like students are exposed to like other scientific activities, such as like checking the pH of water. So whether a certain pH of water indicates what, so at least they will carry on this information with them. Second, in this second model, if you see like a model in the sandpit illustrating precipitation and runoff in the like a local water catchment. So how actually water behaves once the rainfall actually occurs in any given actually location, and depending upon the topography. So if we give them this actually piece of information, they will carry it with them, right? So how these actually scientific knowledge and things can be made actually easily understandable, so the awareness has actually huge impact. So we must actually work for creating this awareness. This is actually a sketch by a student, what she has seen from her window. So if you see, like she has drawn a variety of like things, the houses and the people, the trees, and then the skies and other stuff. So how their observations, like actually occur, how their observations actually take place, what do they observe, what do they actually understand from this observations. It's a very interesting actually phenomena. If we like go through the child psychology, so it is always better to deal with the children in a very soft manner, to introduce actually such concepts of sustainability. So I believe extending this knowledge to the children will bear an important actually result in the like a times to come. Okay, further coming back to the our like a main like a concept, so how this the impact has actually taken place over the time. So we have seen actually these slides in the earlier lectures. We give a number of like inputs for like a energy, material, we give like a minerals and chemicals, biomass, water, and like all other kind of like a stuff, for like our utility, utility in like a household, utility in like a industry, offices, retail, and in terms of like output, what do we get? The emissions, the waste, and the waste, other like natural materials, such as like polluted air, polluted water, so it takes like a huge actually amount of like a resources, huge quantum of resources, and a bad impact. So how this actually can be closed, how this can be actually dealt with, is the exercise for us today to address. Well, there are smaller things what we can do. The urgent change is needed in our like a behavior. How do we consume stuff, starting with our like a food material, to the like a other like a gadgets and products and the utility area, and like a products which we use, for example, like a upholstery, furniture, anything and everything. You look around your place, you will see like all of these products, they are manufactured somewhere, they have utilized certain like resources, they have used some amount of like energy, so with the like a summation of all of these products combined for the like a whole world, it results into the huge actually consumption of resources and energy. So how like a change at a unit level can bring a big change in the overall scale, is the actually matter of understanding over here. So this is what I want to bring for our like understanding. We must actually change our behavior. We must not actually fall prey to this consumeristic actually lifestyle, but we should actually introspect and go for like much simpler solutions which nature has provided for our like a day-to-day living. Well, in what ways this can be done? To control our like a buying pattern, so use what you have. So I'll again reiterate, we must actually make use of whatever is available with us. Okay, only if it is like a not available with us and we cannot actually manage, then we can go for actually borrowing from somebody. We can get it on like a maybe rent if you need like a something, or maybe we can swap it from somebody. Maybe we can go for thrifting, or maybe we can go for making ourselves. If not at all possible, then only we should go for the buying, because buying induces, a big chain in the economy. Well, from the economy actually perspective, buying is a very important factor, but buying responsibly is the need of the hour, and that actually caters to the sustainable actually growth and development model. Buying mindlessly is not going to lead us anywhere, rather it will lead us to a bigger trap, which is like we have already seen with the lack of like how the earth, how the humanity in an overall sense had already like overshot the bio capacity. If you see this slide, so this is only because of this mindless consumerism, and the like a consumption pattern. So we must actually control it, otherwise earth has already actually fallen short of meeting our requirements. And further, with the number of population increasing, the number of requirements increasing, it's going to, this gap is going to widen even more, and that will lead to a severe actually crisis situation for a huge number of like a people from across the world. The people from like a impoverished countries, people from like a weaker economic actually countries, they are going to suffer, they will be at the receiving end. So we must actually take the all humanity along, and we should actually bring our like a consumeristic lifestyle and patterns and the whole volume of this consumeristic actually requirements under the capacity of this bio capacity, so that the equilibrium remains there. Well, so in the recent times, in the recent decades, what are the main environmental issues observed are listed over here, of like a global warming, pollution, ozone depletion, water scarcity, resource scarcity, deforestation, soil degradation, waste, extinction of like a several species of like a flora and fauna, and population. So these are the actually major issues, where there is a huge concern. So these must be actually addressed independently or with the, like a systemic approach, collectively, to address actually these issues. Well, how this can be done? So we have certain solutions we have discussed this in like our like a prior lectures. EIA, environmental impact assessment, is one of them. It is an important procedure for ensuring that likely effects of new development on the environment are fully understood and taken into account before the development is allowed to take place. So this is actually an important actually factor, this is an important actually consideration and exercise we must undertake before actually taking up any infrastructural project. Well, what kind of repercussions, what kind of after effects are going to take place once the project is executed. So we must actually calculate it, we must actually take like a preventive measures to minimize the impact, or rather bring it under the actually threshold, so that the overall impact remains like a negligible, or it doesn't actually crosses the threshold. Further, we have a very famous life cycle analysis, so this works at the unit level. Maybe we can calculate a product's LCA, maybe we can calculate a product LCA of a building, or something like that. So this also helps in defragmenting a unit actually thinks of like a the life stages of a product, so starting from like a sourcing of its raw material to its manufacturing, transportation, usage, maintenance, and after the life disposal. So how this can be also corrected, to minimize the impact. Further, we have seen like how the strategies for like a sustainable design can be utilized in actually improving the scenario of like a design of like a buildings, or design of like a products, or any like a designing of even like a service. So if you see the one important thing from that list, I wanted to bring to your like understanding, like time is one of the important factors we must include in our like considerations before going for the design. So as you see like these two like a products, two different products are compared over here, on the factor of like a time, like how much like of a time they are going to serve, the they are like the requirement which is expected out of them, and we must actually choose products, techniques, and the manufacturing processes to actually extend the longevity, extend the actually a serving lifespan of that product, so that the need of like a multiple products in the further like a same like actually time range of like a requirement, we actually can avoid, so that is the idea over here. So you must actually take this consideration also in your like a design exercises. Okay, so this is why I wanted to bring. Well, we have seen like several times like sustainability in today's like a scope consists of like a three important aspects: environmental, social, and economical. So how the design, how this whole phenomena of like a growth and development can be woven around this sustainable actually approach is the actually talk is the actually discussion what we are undertaking right now. So how the combination of these two results into like a, you see like a your economic socio models, social economic environmental actually approaches and environmental economic approaches. So with the combination of all these three, we actually get this sustainability approach. And in that actually the one another important factor what we have been observing through this study of like several like a product designs which we have used as a like a case study in this course. So closing the cycle has resulted into one of the major actually approaches which needs to be actually carried out in today's concern, in the today's actually time frame. So we must actually close the cycle, because we have discussed so resource at the wrong place becomes a pollution. So how we can actually not allow a resource or any material to land in the wrong place and become actually a polluting agent. So why we must actually learn and devise ways to close the cycle, so that the at the end of the like a life cycle of any like a product, it becomes a raw material for any like a next actually cycle, next like a product's life cycle. So thus we will be able to close this circle. Further, how much time do we have? Okay, and what kind of like interventions are needed at what stage of the a product's life cycle? So the biggest actually potential for in intervention is at the level of intervening consumption actually pattern. The first and foremost thing which I spoke in this today's lecture about controlling the consumption. So the biggest intervention, the biggest potential of improvement is possible at that stage only, because the moment I decide not to buy a certain thing which is not so necessary for like my usage or my some utility, at least I'm saving all of the materials, resources, and energy required to produce that thing. So it is as simple as that. So how this can be actually this thought actually can be improved is the actually matter of discussion over here. Next actually a level of like a intervention, next biggest actually intervention is possible at the level of like a products, designing the products and the services. Further actually the potential is at the level of designing the processes, and the least potential remains for like a improvement is at the like a once the product is like used or discarded or at its like a end of the life cycle stage. So we see like we are talking about going for the recycling, we are talking about like a repurposing, reusing and all that. But these are all the actually stages where the product has already lived its life, and it has already exerted its impact, and further it's going to create even more impact rather. So all of those things can be taken care of if you attack this whole thing at the beginning only. If we attack this whole thing at the like a consumption pattern only, like if we just decide not to use certain things, so we will certainly be helping in reducing the production of that particular like a material or the article. So what we have been actually studying through this course are about the like strategies for like sustainable design. So these are actually few listed strategies over here. You can actually take note of them again, like a product service system, like a designing that model, designing for like a producer like a stewardship, designing for dematerialization, removing the materials, removing the redundant parts, components, designing for like a remanufacturing, recyclability, repairability, reusability, disassembly, designing for like a system change, designing for extended lifespan, longevity, efficiency, designing for modularity, designing for like a influence, equity, etc. So these are actually some major strategies which we have studied in this course. And like we have seen like several examples how the designers, architects, and engineers have utilized these strategies in designing their like a buildings, designing like a product solution, designing for like services. So we can actually take help of actually these strategies for our own design projects as well. So the for the solution, we must actually employ this design thinking, these strategies, which are under like a cusp of this design thinking and good impact. So then so the idea about like how and why we should actually employ those strategies is to have actually the good impact, so that the negative impact can be minimized. Further, we have to improve this design thinking, like how responsibly, how in an empathetic way we can design actually solutions, whether they are from like industrial design courses, whether they are from like architecture, or in the field, or in even like academic projects, so from anywhere. So this is where actually these strategies fall in place, and between design thinking to the business model and people, so we can go for actually innovative approaches. So remember in the lecture of like innovation, we thought like, and we discussed like how innovation can take place. So well, innovation need not actually is restricted to like educated and qualified people, and only innovation can actually happen at any place at any given time by anybody. So we must actually go for like a such like a innovative thinkings to come up with the out of the box solution. And thirdly, of course, we have to satisfy the sustainability. Okay, so at the cusp of these actually these three, like the strategies which are like being employed, the innovative actually out of the box solutions, and sustainability approaches, at the confluence of these three, we get the successful solutions. Well, so these successful solutions can be utilized for like reducing the impact. And don't forget about the different R's, the 8 R's example which we have discussed in this chapter, is about rethinking. So we can actually always fix up our like choices, to prevent the consumerism. And then we can refuse, like a single use products. We can go for actually choosing a multiple uses product, the products who have like a extended lifespan, or maybe they can be repurposed into different uses, right? Then we can go for reducing the consumption. Even if we need something, if we cannot actually fulfill our requirements, then if we have to go for like certain products, we can at least minimize the amount of it, the quantum of it, rather further like reusing stuff, so that we can fulfill our requirements and needs, by reusing the products which we have bought actually previously, or we have it at our home. And then refurbishing, always we can go for refurbishing for like older furnitures, the older like upholstery items, several other the paper based actually products and things, the fabric based actually products and materials, so refurbishing is highly possible for like furniture based actually like a materials, like a wood, timber, glass, steel, etc. So we can always actually refurbish and reuse them for our requirements. Again, repairability, the electronics and electrical gadgets, which actually develop some snag or some malfunction, they can always be repaired. And so we must not actually go and discard them after like just one malfunction and we buy the new one. That's not a good actually practice. Again, repurposing, like for example plastic, so how we can actually make use of the plastic to repurpose it into for like other purposes also, like the example we saw like this the discarded plastics, they are being used for the top layer of the like roads. So how like this is actually a repurposing. So how the material which is discarded can be repurposed to reuse somewhere, and then finally like a recycling. So if there is no other option, we can always go for the recycling. Okay, so in these actually 8 R's, we must actually learn to implement these. Finally, so these are not something like a like a new age solutions, or like we are talking about some very difficult science or something. These actually things have been in our like customs and our like a social actually system. So our like a families, our ancestors, forefathers, our parents, they have been actually trying to fulfill their like requirements, through the means, which are like a sourced locally, and then the whatever is available at the household only. So they have been doing it, they have been actually practicing it. This fast paced actually consumerism has actually picked up in the recent years and a few decades, with the help of this advertising and some other like enticing actually techniques, where companies actually try to forcibly sell their products, enticing us, giving us actually some some daydreaming kind of like this feeling that this product is going to bring like this change, that change. So this mindless actually consumerism has led to this devastating actually situation. So the traditional actually living cultures, if you see the kind of like a value systems what they have, there is nothing wrong in going back and adopting them. Even with our own like this modern actually lifestyle, we can still go for like adopting these value systems from the older times, and we can actually learn to live in the sync of like a nature. We can learn to live in the cohabitation with the different like a species of life on this planet. you know so the guiding factors what we have seen through our like a national building code of India, and like other literatures also, the Indian like ancient scriptures and all. So these three things actually are prominently given in them about the three important attributes of like aparigraha, that is minimum possession; sanrakshan, that is minimum consumption; and punarchakra, like a minimum waste. So these are the actually three key areas, key actually value systems which we can adopt, and they are still relevant. They will always be relevant, as far as this sustainability is concerned, because these value systems have been a part of this culture which has thrived on these actually lands for like unknown years of like a time, like thousands and thousands of years of time. So this is the actually way our like forefathers have lived for for so long. So in the like recent times, if we see like only in the like a post industrialization era, like how like so much of a disbalance actually suddenly cropped up. So we must actually learn to go back to these roots. With these attributes and rich heritage in sustainability and living styles, India can make substantial contribution in planning and design for sustainability. Next, building in harmony of regional common knowledge resources which are part of every cultural societies. Well, again, with the cultural societies, the mention of vernacular becomes like an imperative. So like a vernacular architecture is like this indigenous local building, like a customs, the materiality and milieu in which it like arises. Vernacular architecture is an architectural style that is designed based on local needs, availability of construction materials, and reflecting local traditions. At least originally, vernacular architecture did not use formally schooled architects, but relied on the design skills and traditions of local builders. So through the vernacular architecture, we just do not actually meet our functional requirements. We actually show our own skills also, which have developed over like a number of years. So it shows like how ingenious that actually culture is, that society is, that community is. So with the vernacular architecture, we give example all of like several other things also. Okay, and one of those examples is like a biomimicry, like how with the help of biomimicry and mimicking the nature, we can actually go for sustainable solutions. So for that, mimicking the form, mimicking the process, and mimicking the entire ecosystem. So as the complexity increases, this goes to the level of like ecosystem. So with the help of these like a biomimicry and biomimetic exercises, we can always take help from like a nature for meeting our like a certain requirements. And with that, we have already discussed some examples, some beautiful and appealing examples also from across the world. And also I would like to give you 2 3 examples again at this moment, so that it remains with you, so that you can think of like the creative ways in which you can come up with this solution, even in the difficult of the difficult situations and contexts. So you remember this structure which was designed as a wraparound of these tall buildings. So this actually area works as a like a dining space for the like a people. And remember, for the like awareness in this it's actually this packaging. So a clear indication, clear information about a product should end up actually where. So this kind of information must be actually labeled prominently, so that one cannot actually miss, right? And secondly, going for like these innovative solutions for like a product design, so that we can fulfill our requirements as well as we can satisfy other needs also, is the actually need of the hour. And this actually consciousness is the like a conscious design, because we are not just designing like mindlessly, but we are designing with a certain intent. So this is where actually from like a conscious design to the like a design consciousness actually comes up in the picture. So you see, you remember this example, so this is actually this pathway, or the staircase, which doesn't exerts any like a rigid and hard structure beneath it, but it allows the grass and other greener actually these plants to grow even beneath this. So this is actually this is where the design consciousness comes into picture. So we must actually understand and learn and utilize actually these notions of like handling nature very carefully. So this is where actually this experience innovation and the design thinking comes into picture. So you must actually take lessons of design thinking. I would recommend, right, as a like a next course to like after this course, you can go for like taking this design thinking course, right, where we will learn about how to come up with the solutions in like a given context. So on the cusp of like a business viability, people's like desirability, technologies like a feasibility, we can go for this innovative actually innovative actually design thinking solutions. And under these actually these three like nodes of this triangle, another introduction of this ecology and sustainability has introduced. So now they have become like a four nodes, with coming up with the meaningful solutions at their confluence. So this is what actually we need to adopt in our like design exercises, and this can be done with the utilizing the technology available, and technology which is emerging in the like recent times are going to emerge in it. It's still evolving. So you can actually think of coming up with novel applications and solutions utilizing this technology. We have discussed a number of like technologies used in the like a building industry for like a product design, etc. So depending upon the context, you can certainly go for that. And all of this should work with the help of the land, the law of the land, as far as like environmental protection and the biodiversity actually protection acts, the wildlife protection acts, and other like a procedural laws and things are concerned. So we can always work around these laws to comply with the law of the land and the overall planet itself. Okay, some examples we have already seen. This is not tough, this is not difficult, it's already doable. What is needed is the right intent, right? So we have the example of IIT Gandhinagar actually campus design from our country, and secondly we have the example of like other institutional campuses and buildings also from the around the world. We have seen this Harvard business like a school's Tata executive hall, which is designed like and executed actually recently in the year 2014. So these are actually some examples where the right intent and design consciousness is actually used to minimize the impact. Okay, so with all of this exercise we will be able to fulfill the sustainable development goals recommended by United Nations, and as you already know, these 17 UN SDGs, in a way they cover each and every aspect and around the sustainable growth and development model for each and every human and other living forms and like a species also, and including like the overall like a planet, earth altogether. So we must actually strive to fulfill like a these actually SDGs to solve the actually overall objective of sustainability. Well, how this can be done? So how we have been actually living conventionally, how we have been actually manufacturing stuff like conventionally, how we have been actually consuming things like a conventionally. So from that, if you see the bottom of this slide over here, so from those conventional degenerative cultures we have to move to the like a greener culture, we have to move to the sustainable approaches. Then from there we can go towards further like to the restorative actually stages, and then from there we can further go to the regenerative actually stage. So this is a long way actually. Right now we are somewhere in this actually area, right? So from here we have to reach to the sustainable level, then restorative level, then regenerative level. So it's actually this living systems design what we are talking about. It pays attention to quality and quantity, effectiveness, doing the right thing, informed by a system's view of life, thinking in patterns and principles. So this is where actually the things will be at the right stage, this is the right level, and we can actually go for a sustainable solutions of like things. So the next big change as a like a summation to this course, we can conclude that the next big change in design is coming as a like a circular design. So you must actually apply this concept in your designs. So with this, we have come to the end of this course altogether. Thank you all for joining this course. I'm sure you have benefited from this course. If there is any feedback, any your feedback, or any a thing you want to share with me, you can definitely send an email to me. I will definitely reply. I try replying you personally for your attention, right? So thank you all very much. Thank you for being with this course all along, right? I'm sure you have learned, and I'm expecting some positive response, because after all, spreading this awareness is also important. This course is not just a course, it's actually a lesson where we are learning like how to live our life sustainably, how to produce things sustainably, how to make this like a better place, this earth a better place. So with this, we have come to the end of this course. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a good day.